In our continuing examination of what love looks like, would not be complete without, of course, a look at 1 Corinthians chapter 13, very famous love passage that Paul writes as he is trying to guide the church at Corinth here. And I'm going to read all 13 verses here, and then we'll focus on a few of them in the middle. If I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but do not have love, I have become a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and know all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. And if I give all my possessions to feed the poor, and if I surrender my body to be burned, but do not have love, it profits me nothing. Love is patient, love is kind, and is not jealous. Love does not brag, and is not arrogant, does not act unbecomingly, it does not seek its own, is not provoked, does not take into account a wrong suffered, does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices in the truth, bears all things, believes all things, but hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends, but if there are gifts of prophecy, they will be done away with. If there are tongues, they will cease. If there is knowledge, it will be done away. For we know in part, we prophesy in part, but when the perfect comes, the partial will be done away. When I was a child, I used to speak like a child, think like a child, reason like a child. When I became a man, I did away with childish things. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then face to face. Now I know in part, but then I will know fully, just as I also have been fully known. But now faith, hope, love abide, these three, but the greatest of these is love. Again, there's a whole lot in there. We could spend probably a month going through it passage by passage. Now we'll look at that core bit in verses 4 through the first part of verse 8. Love is patient, love is kind. We get this, what it is and what it isn't, kind of a contrast going here. Patient and kind is not jealous. That means, we're not, if we are loving, we're not self-seeking. We don't want the attention to be on us there. It does not brag and is not arrogant and does not act unbecomingly. There is a proper behavior involved in love where we're not puffing ourselves up, not trying to trash talk the others, uh, and behave in a way that is uh, not appropriate for the situation. It does not seek its own. Again, we're not selfish, is not provoked. We don't let our nose get out of joint. We don't get upset at things uh, when people do something that is bothersome. Uh, Now, there's not saying that things won't bother us, but we don't let it change the way we act and behave. Does not take into account a wrong suffered. Now, that doesn't mean that you just say, "Oh, it's okay." Now, you realize that the other person has done wrong. You don't let it affect your attitude toward them. Now, if the wrong is a dangerous wrong where they are, you know, liable to hurt us, there's nothing wrong with getting away from them. But you don't hold grudges. Maybe that'd be a better way of putting it. You don't hold grudges. It says not rejoice in unrighteousness. You're not happy when somebody else screws up, but rejoices with the truth. Verse 7 is bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Uh, that's kind of weird, believes all things. Just believe anything that comes along. No, 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 no. The bears all things can also be translated covers everything. A more literal translation of the Greek was everything bears or covers, everything believes, everything hopes, everything endures. It's more an attitude of what's going on in our life that we don't change according to our circumstances. And everything that's going on around us, we cover it over with love. We continue in our faith, because the word belief here is the same word that we use in Greek for faith, to trust in Jesus, to have faith in Jesus. Uh, we use two different words in English for the two different actions, but uh, it's the same word. In everything, we continue to have hope in God, and in everything, we endure, we press on. Uh, and he sums it up there in the first part of verse 8. Love never fails. It never gives up, never gives in, never quits. Even though things get rough, when we are trying to love other people, other fallen people in this fallen world, it hurts, but we persevere, just like Christ persevered for us. So part of the way that love looks can be found by looking deeply into 1 Corinthians 13 and thinking about what that means, what Paul is saying to us, what God is having him say to us, so that we can know how we ought to behave, act, and live in this sinful fallen world.